Welcome to the Scaleup Valley podcast, where we bring the best of the best to help you scale your business from 1 million to 1 trillion. Today's guest is Oriol Tintoré, the co-founder and co-CEO at Belvo. Uri, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot. Pleasure to be here with you.
So it's really a pleasure to host you on the show, considering what you have done so far in the ecosystem and your track records. But for the ones who didn't have the pleasure to meet you before, so who is Uri?
Yeah, so I can give a quick intro about myself. I mean, I'm an aerospace engineer. And background, I started my career as an engineer actually in the US. I worked for NASA for 4 years developing small satellites. So one of the things that happened when I was there is that I saw that my bosses, they started a company, they started a startup, and they were doing a lot cooler things than a public company like NASA was doing. So I decided that was the route that I wanted to follow. So I joined Stanford to do an MBA with the will of starting my own company, and co-founded my first company in 2015, where we started a satellite company that we were doing Earth imagery using small satellites. And I stayed there like 3-4 months because I had to either quit the MBA or leave the company. Decided to quit to quit the company and finish the MBA. Soon after that, I joined Verse, which is a peer-to-peer payments platform in Spain, and there's where I met my co-founder Pablo. And after 12 months of running the company, we decided to start something ourselves to build a new financial infrastructure for Latin America. So that's back in 2019. That's when we started Belvo.
That's quite amazing, and you have done a good job with Verse. It was acquired by Square for the ones who don't know, but we'll get back to the topic later. So let's get to know more about this exciting opportunity and scale up that you are working on, which is Belvo. Tell us more about Belvo.
Yeah, so one of the things that we saw when Paolo and I were doing a lot of research in the region was that a lot of financial companies were really struggling to accomplish 3 things where they had big pain points. They all of them had issues accessing data from their end users to make decisions. They did not know how to process information, and the way to move money was extremely slow and very costly. So we decided that Latin America had the need of a new financial infrastructure. In a very similar way compared to the way software development has evolved in the last years. Right? So when you were starting a company, you had to build absolutely everything. You will have to buy servers. You will have to build your own infrastructure and then start developing your core business. In financial services, something like this is happening. Like when you might get access to people that want financial services, such as a loan, but you have to build the entire thing from the top to the bottom. Top being the relationship with the user, the bottom being connecting to the financial rails. So this is going to be disintermediated. There are going to be companies working on different layers to provide the best service. And because we saw that this was going to happen, we decided to build the infrastructure layer to serve companies to allow them to connect to financial data, process that data, and move money. So in a nutshell, what we do is we allow companies to allow their end users to connect their financial accounts to make decisions. An example is when you are asking for a loan, instead of submitting manually your income reports or your banking statements, you can just click on connecting your account. You choose your bank account, you input the credentials, and the information is linked in a matter of seconds. So we're building this infrastructure for all companies in Latin America, and we're now present in Mexico, Colombia, and Brazil.
That's quite impressive. And in terms of stage of growth, for the ones who are listening to us, they can relate to where your advice comes from. So you have raised a 10 million Series A recently in terms of headcount. Where are you?
Yes, so we're post Series A. So our last round was almost a year ago. It was a $43 million round, so the company has raised a total of 56 million in different rounds since we started in 2019, and we're a team of 125 people, spread between Brazil, Mexico, Spain, and we also have people in other countries like Argentina, Peru, Colombia, Greece, Portugal, etc.
Got it. So already at the mid stage in terms of scaling up, not early stage, not yet the post Series C or a very late stage, but what I like to call the mid stage, right, in terms of scaling up.
Yeah, we consider ourselves transitioning from product market fit to growth stage. So that's, yeah.
Good point. Even better precision in terms of clarifying where you are in terms of growth. Great. So we love to close the show with this question, and we are doing the opposite in some of the shows because we think it's a very powerful question to break the ice and to extract the most important lessons from our guests. So if you'd have an opportunity to have a coffee with yourself at the beginning of Belvo, what advice would you offer to your younger self?
Probably not to build anything until you've done extensive research. That's one thing that I think we did an okay job, maybe not an amazing one, but even so, the value that you can get from really interviewing the market and really validating the hypothesis that you have is extremely powerful. The worst thing that can happen is that you have an hypothesis that you assume it's right, that you build it, but you were wrong. And an hypothesis is extremely easy to be a wrong hypothesis because we're all biased, because we see one side of the coin, and we really need to understand the market. So one piece of advice that I give some entrepreneurs, especially the ones that are more that have more technical background, is don't ever write a line of code before you've done extensive research in the market. I think this is uncomfortable to do. This is a challenge. This brings us out of the comfort zone. It's not the funniest thing or the thing that makes us super excited or that makes us feel that we're adding a lot of value already, that we're creating something amazing. But in the end, is extremely powerful. Understanding the market, really seeing the needs of customers, and being extremely honest with yourself. I mean, what are my hypotheses? How do I validate that I am right? Because if you're wrong, the best thing you can do is to get that answer as soon as possible. It will give you the capability to iterate and to get into the right path very quickly.
Yeah, and definitely it's a lot of resources that are being wasted, right? And we should focus much more on validating really the problem that we are trying to solve. I think that's another issue that is it's easy to understand. It's difficult to apply, to not try to find a problem for the solution, but really try to solve a very big problem in the market and find the right timing to solve that problem. And it brings one of the topics that we love to discuss here on the show, which is the importance of radical focus. There is something very interesting about Belvo that I would love you to share. You already said that you are focused on Mexico, Colombia, and Brazil in the beginning of your presentation of Belvo. So why Latam? Why only Latam? Or you even used the expression when we spoke last time, Latam First and only.
Yeah, so I mean, for us, it's extremely important to be focused. And I mean, what we see is that Latin America is actually a very big region. And first, you need to be a local company. I think an error that can be made is that you can serve at the same time very different regions, such as Europe or Spain and Latam, and the transition is easy. I think this is so this is actually a lot more complex than people think. So why Latam first? Because we saw that the urgency was there. We saw that the opportunity and the timing was the correct one versus other regions. Why Latam only? Because each market is very different. Even within Latin America, each country is very different already. And we cannot be too full to think that we can serve the entire world very quickly. So as we expand, even if you ask us 10 years down the line, would you see yourself operating elsewhere? We see ourselves providing more value-added services in LATAM versus expanding elsewhere.
That's really interesting, and even within LATAM, selecting these three markets where you were starting: Mexico, Colombia, and Brazil. And I assume we didn't start with the three at the same time, but maybe yes. Any inputs there, by the way?
Yeah, so we started in Mexico, and we started in Mexico in 2019. It launched at the beginning of 2020. We decided to test the expansion playbook in Colombia, and it proved to be successful. So after we started seeing a lot of interest from the region, we developed that and launched. We were serving Colombia from Mexico, and this is something that we're transitioning at the moment. So because you have to be a local company, right, even within, so you being a Latam company is not enough. You have to be a Mexican company, you have to be a Colombian company, and also Brazil. I mean, we expanded after to Brazil, and you have to be really a Brazilian company. So you need the resources to be local, and this is complex. After this expansion, we decided to focus a lot on these three markets only. And even if we are exploring opportunities of growing to other markets, they have to come together with big opportunities that we're always exploring. But if you think about where we believe the revenue is going to come from in 5 years down the line, probably a big chunk is going to come from these three countries. And for us, it's a lot more important to win Brazil, to win Mexico, and win Colombia than being present all over Latin America quickly.
This is quite interesting to think in this way, because I think that in the past we had this go global kind of manifesto that sometimes was defocusing ourselves and the entrepreneurs in the space. It's really very important to be the number one player in the most important markets. So in a lot of expansion strategies, it is in the US if you are coming from Europe or whatever it's happening. But here in Latam, it's definitely Brazil from the Portuguese speaking countries in the region, and Mexico and Colombia in the Spanish speaking countries. Of course, I would say that Argentina is also quite big, right?
Yes, I mean it's definitely one of the what we would call tier 2 countries for us. Right. It's also true that in terms of fintech, Colombia has expanded faster than Argentina, and also from a macro perspective, it's a much easier country. However, we are looking at Argentina in detail as well. We do see a big difference between Brazil number 1, Mexico number 2, Colombia number 3, and then the rest. So the rest.
And there is already here a big challenge for the company, which is really to manage, as you said, the different cultures, the different countries, and even the different languages, Portuguese and Spanish. So how has been this transition in terms of expanding from Mexico to Brazil, and of course, let's say starting up in Brazil and expanding from Mexico to Colombia, as you said, right?
Yeah, and this it has presented several challenges, right? So in Brazil, maybe it's the most significant one because of the language barrier, and then 2, the country specific knowledge that you need, right? And again, it goes back to being a Brazilian company. You cannot pretend to be, even Pablo and I were from Spain, right? So we cannot pretend to be a Spanish company just because the two of us were from Spain. If you want to serve Brazil, we need to be a Brazilian company. We need to speak the language. We need to understand the clients. We need to understand the product, the ecosystem, the regulations. So there are a lot of things that you need. So that's why Brazil was the latest one we expanded, and we waited until we have significant funding to accomplish it, because we knew that we had to hire people on the ground, a full team, etc., to build a Brazilian company. So I would say this has been one of the main challenges, right? As we have expanded. I have to say that on the other hand, there are things that are not, I would say, as hard or as unfriendly as people might think, right? So we've heard a lot, like it's very hard to make business in Brazil, and actually, I think Brazil is one of the most business-friendly companies that we've seen in terms of the how fast it's evolving, how willing companies are to try new things, to rely on innovation, how the regulator is pushing the new developments. So in that term, we're seeing extremely positive actions that are affecting us, and we see the growth in Brazil being very, very high thanks to the ecosystem as well. So I think it comes with some challenges for sure, but also there are great opportunities.
And the ecosystem has evolved a lot in the last years in the region, and of course in Brazil as well with several growth stage scale-ups, unicorns, and so on. So same is happening in the Spanish-speaking ones, but definitely Brazil is very open to innovation and to new technologies. So it's good to see, and maybe the timing is also right to go to Brazil in terms of the opportunity, as we were discussing before. So there is something also interesting that I'd like to discuss, which is, of course, the team component. So we need, as we discussed about the advice to your younger self, it's really important to identify the opportunity and to invest time and resources on doing a good research before starting to write any line of codes. And of course, that's all about execution, and planning is also made by a great team. So I know that you have started almost from scratch with Mexico. So how have you managed it to kind of starting to set up the first leadership team as Oriol, as Belvo started to scale?
Yeah, it's a very good question. We always say that anything that we build is thanks to the team and thanks to the kind of the culture that the company has, and the excitement that everyone shares, and the motivation to achieve our objective of democratizing access to financial services in Latin America. How do you do that? I mean, we always say that growth comes very natural within Belvo, both personal growth as people above within the company, and also growth within like the people that you have to bring on board. Two of the things that we've put a lot of emphasis. One is we built very early a significant people department. So I think our number 10 or number 11 hire was the person who today is our VP of people, and she has been instrumental for the growth of the company, hiring local talent while maintaining the company culture, where we have now offices in Sao Paulo, Mexico City, Barcelona, Madrid. So this is hard, and that's why we decided to invest very early on this. I mean, if you think about types of hires that 10 people company make, it's not normal to find an executive for the people team. It's actually the first executive team member was the VP of people. And for us, that
especially a senior one, and sorry to interrupt, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's not, hey, we're finding somebody
Exactly.
we found, so we hired a person that had gone through the scale-up process of moving companies from 50 to 300 employees.
Exactly.
In extremely fast-paced environments, companies like Social Point, Marfil. So this is, we wanted to bring that type of person on board. And this has made us extremely successful at hiring good talent and keeping good talent. So people are very happy working at Belvo. I think it comes from the culture, from the values that we have within the company. So I think for us, in terms of how to build the leadership team, I think it's very, very focused on how do we have hired people, and then the rest of the leadership team. I think when you try to hire executives, they're basically they want to see two things. One is actually the culture of the company, the people. Think about these people, they can work anywhere. They can choose any company to work for. So they want to work in a place where they're going to enjoy it, when they're going to have fun, because they know that they're probably very successful people. They can do a very good job almost everywhere. And the first thing for them is working with people that they can maybe learn from, but they can have a good time working with. And it's not about like partying every day. It's about a growing environment. So a big vision, humility, teamwork, etc. And then the second thing is about the boldness of the mission and how clear that mission is. And for us, I think we have worked a lot on defining our mission, which is, as I said before, democratizing access to financial services in Latin America with a very compelling story. When you match this mission, which is a huge challenge, something that can change a region and can change the ecosystem for a better one that has a lot of social impact, together with an amazing group of people to work with, which is the rest of the team, it makes it a lot easier. Right? So you have a lot of weapons to use when you are hiring these people, and when they get to know the company, they fall in love with Belvo. So it's not easy, obviously, but this is a bit. I mean, I'll focus a lot more on the soft aspect versus on like numbers and things like that. Yes, they're obviously necessary, but that doesn't make a big difference for this type of leadership team members.
Yeah, and it should be the role of the team to achieve those numbers. The difficult part is really to, as you said, to attract those people and to present them in the right way, and of course being also honest, the opportunity that they have in front of them, and the amazing team that will be joining and that they will be working with to achieve those amazing milestones. And of course, it's always high risk environment. That's what the VC community and the Scaleup community love. At the same time, it's this huge ambition that we have about disrupting industries, changing the world, and improving the world with what we do, right? So that's quite and something very, very interesting about also your team is the co-CEO model. Is Pablo also based in Spain or in Latin America?
Yeah, we're both based in Spain. He travels a bit more than I do, especially because he leads the revenue side of the company, so more the relationship with a lot of clients. Right. So that he travels a bit more, but we're both based in Spain.
Got it. And how has been this co-CEO model? We have seen in some companies that this model is being very successful. Sometimes the investors push a bit to decide who will be the CEO, and sometimes even in later stages of growth. So what has been some of the pros and cons of having this kind of model, and why do you guys are in love with this model?
Yeah, I mean, as time passes, I'm more a believer of the model. It has been a model that several people have asked about. I think it's the question is a lot about, I don't know, we've traditionally seen single CEOs in companies, and that is fine. But I actually see the structure of co-founders.
I like the expression single CEOs. We are recording this in the week of the Valentine's Day, so it's a nice analogy.
Exactly. Yeah. So and it actually is I would say it also has when you talk about co-CEOs or couple CEOs, and
Exactly.
but it also has the benefit of the teamwork, right? I mean, imagine being a single parent, or imagine being a couple, right? No, but talking seriously about running the company, I mean, a lot of people ask about the questions like, hey, how do you make decisions? Or we've gotten the questions like, hey, if you have like $1 million to invest in a project, and both of you want it, who wins? Which is, to be honest, a decision that you never face. You're never going to say like, oh, we have this million to allocate. Is it yours or is it mine? I mean, that never ever happens. On the other hand, making decisions by yourself is challenging. You don't have the capability of focusing on everything, and you don't have all the answers, and it's extremely beneficial for the company to be challenged and to have somebody to bounce back ideas.
Yeah.
In some cases, we've seen companies where they have, I don't know, if 3 CEOs or 3 people at the same level, which normally tends to end with like a 2 versus 1. So just from a statistical perspective, there's going to be one person that is going to be in more decisions alone than the other 2, right? So, and that can create conflict. With 2 people, it's either you agree or you disagree, right? So it's and both people are in exactly the same situation, right? So it's very easy to be equal. We have a huge trust relationship, and when we have conversations about things that maybe one of us does not agree, we have clear boundaries of what area that implies and who makes a decision. I give an example. I don't know, like if we want to close a client and we have certain conditions, and I might say that we should change them, and Pablo might say that we need to keep them. I mean, it's Pablo's decision, and I'm going to argue about it, but I'm going to say, I know this is your decision, and I'm going to agree with your decision, and B, work as if it was my decision. And he does exactly the same thing if it's something under my responsibilities. But I do appreciate having somebody to challenge me and to provide feedback on the things that I also lead. So I think that the CEO role is also a pretty lonely role, and having somebody that you share all of those responsibilities is amazing. And being transparent, I mean, the CEO is the person who is most out of the comfort zone in the company. Exactly. And it's super hard. So you have to make decisions. You work with people that have a lot more, I don't know, like market understanding, better background, more experience, and you're supposed to be the one making the right decisions. Doing all of this alone, I think it's hard. I keep trusting more and more this relationship, and when people ask about it, I say, hey, I mean, so this is extremely beneficial for the company. And investors are like, oh, this investor does not invest in like co-CEOs. Like, that's fine. I mean, it's like if an investor will not invest in fintech, it's not the investor we're going to talk to, right? So this is the way we work, and we're extremely convinced about it. And it has helped Pablo and myself build an incredible relationship where we trust each other 100%.
That's really great, and I like it a lot, your point, and I can relate to it about the very lonely role that the CEO needs to go through, and having definitely a co-CEO helps to complement each other, and at the same time, as you said, to vent and to brainstorm, to discuss the future of the company. And of course, it is also very important for the CEO to not assume the responsibility and the need of having all the answers for the company. That's why we have a leadership team to support us, and the co-CEOs need to be also part of the leadership team and members of the leadership team, and of course leverage their role and their position as co-CEOs when they need to do it, when there is conflict, when there is no consensus about a specific decision, or even if it is consensus, that's why we have a leader of the team to decide that the direction is in another way. So how do you bring the leadership team together and play as one, let's say?
Yeah, I mean, you have to work in a way where the executive team will make the same decisions if you're in the room and if you're not in the room. I think that's what you want to accomplish, and that's the overall goal.
Clarity again.
Yeah, and so that means that you need to empower the team as soon as possible, right? So if you make all the decisions, you're not in the room, the team is first, they're not going to be empowered, and they're going to be maybe afraid of making the decisions because they've never done it, right? So first thing is you always have to empower people to make their own decisions. We are not, I mean, I think the decision making should be the inverted pyramid of the company structure. The decision should actually come from the bottom and be challenged as you grow. So I personally, I see my job as a question maker and as a challenger. I'm maybe pretty annoying at asking questions. I'm extremely curious. So I think the team might know it. So when we have, I don't know, the weekly meetings, and then each department presents, it's like, okay, it's Uri asking a question, Uri asking a question. So, but it's not about, I mean, it's not about finger pointing. It's about understanding, and it's about challenging, right? So why do you think this is a good decision? And then I think the team gets to understand the way you think up to the point where they answer the question before you ask it, which is I think it's to me it's a magical moment. It's like, hey Woody, I know you're going to ask this. This is the answer. So I like this a lot. But you have to empower them. You have to empower them, and they are the decision makers. You have to communicate this to them. I mean, in the end, we have the vision, we have the push. We can motivate the team. If the team needs us to make decisions, to clarify things, we're going to be there to help, because it's also Pablo and I were going to be the ones who probably have the widest view, and we can provide input about, hey, have you thought about this? Maybe they haven't because they don't have the full picture. And once we detect these things, how do we open communication and how do we ensure that these things happen? And in the end, is if the team feels empowered, they are going to grow, they're going to be happy, and then they're going to be able to make these decisions. And it starts by delegating as much as possible, making them the decision makers, and not working as somebody with ego. I think that's the biggest enemy of companies is personal ego. We always say that people who come to Belvo and work with a Belvo t-shirt, they're going to be successful. They're not going to be asking for promotions, raises, etc., but they're going to get it. People who come to the company and they work with their t-shirt, so with their name on the t-shirt, they're going to fail. And that is pretty clear, and you see that. So that's a bit what we're trying to enforce within the company.
Love it. That's definitely a very important one. It's how do we go from high individual achievers into a high performing team? I think there is an art there, and the role of the CEO is critical there. So we assume sometimes that if we have the right people on the right seats, it's done. It's not done. So we need to make them a team, and this is the complicated part of the process.
And I think I don't know, if we think about people that we admire professionally, I would say 95% of them, they don't give a shit about themselves. Mm-hmm. They don't worry about the quality of their work. And it's not because they are sure and they have such a big ego that they know it's right. It's because they know that it's not the important thing. The important thing is working for the company, and then what happens with me, I'm going to be taken care of. I've always seen that, and I admire this from people. Like, hey, this person is able not to worry about, am I doing the right job? Am I doing the right thing? And these are the people who, if they ask the question, they will feel extremely even more motivated, but they simply don't ask this question to themselves. So I think this is something you have to achieve, and this is the type of people you want to work with.
I had also had the opportunity in my career to be a professional CEO first, and later to start up my own company, Scaleup Valley, not in the VC backed industry. But I'm curious. So you had the opportunity to be a professional CEO at first. It got acquired. Later, you started Belvo. So what is the difference of being a professional CEO or being a founder CEO in this industry?
Yeah, just one quick mention. I mean, I think so. Verse was acquired by Square around a year after Pablo and I left. So obviously, it was a big success that Verse was acquired by Square. But I don't want to take the merit of that. I was not part of that, but still very happy for this process. I think it's stepping in as CEO versus starting from the bottom is different, right? When you come to a company as a CEO, you haven't built a team. You don't have the full picture on everything. So that can be a big challenge, and it's more natural when you start from the beginning. On the other hand, you have to adapt to many different situations. So in the end, once you go through the transition phase and you get to understand how things work, I think it's pretty similar. I think it's seen very differently from the outside market. You stepped in as the CEO. What happened? Is this so? Are you really a founder? Which in a way, I mean, I can tell that I was doing very similar job before and today. So not that it changes my mentality, that it changes my spirit, but it's perceived differently. If you ask me what I prefer, obviously I prefer to start from the bottom up. It's like a cleaner situation, and then when you step in as CEO somewhere, you inherit the goods and the bads, right? So the company will have things that you would have done differently, and they're a lot better than you would have done. And you have problems that would have happened with you. So you have to just accept them and embrace them as if they were yours.
Absolutely. And before we close, and we need to wrap up soon, as the time is flying, and I would love to discuss much more points here with you. But there is something that I really love, which is the country manager, general manager kind of model, and how it combines with the leadership team. So there are people who believe that that kind of role should be sitting at the leadership team. There are other ones that believe that it should be reporting to someone in the leadership team. So what is your position at this moment, and how do you see the presence of the country managers or general managers that are leading the GUs in the leadership team?
Yeah, I can speak on behalf of Belvo. I think each company is completely different, so I'm not going to judge, or I don't think I have a strong opinion on how other companies do it. There can be reasons to do it one way or another. For us, it's extremely important to have them at the executive team, and our country managers report directly to Pablo, because they are the people who are going to have the best knowledge about the local market. They're going to have information about how our product works, how we sell our product, what's the internal team spirit. So even if they don't have like a lot of direct reports, or they don't work, I mean, sales do not report to them, product do not report to them, they are in the middle, and they can be extremely beneficial. And for us, the example is Brazil, right? We have a GM in Brazil who has been instrumental. I mean, he has almost entirely started the company. He onboarded people from sales. He taught them how to sell. He was present in the first sales. He was challenging our product, defining our product with us to tackle the Brazilian market in a much better way than we would have ever done. So in a way, they are the co-founders of Belvo within the company. I was saying Belvo needs to be a Brazilian company. So the CEO of Belvo Brazil is our GM, is our country manager. The same is, so now we've hired the same in Mexico, and the same in Colombia. And we see it this way. So extremely important for us, and they have to be with the executive team for sure.
I fully agree with you, and I believe that is definitely the point. So we need to have a diverse leadership team that represents the countries that we are playing in, or who have experience in the countries that we are playing with. And it's really a waste of intelligence and resources to not have those people who are on the ground in the leadership team. Or even worse, if we are telling them what to do when they are the ones who know more about the markets, it's definitely, in my point of view, a mistake. So very well done. Today we will not discuss the execution machine bits or OKRs and so on. I think that we have enough of that. So let's discuss the future and what needs to happen until you are back into this podcast. So what means success in the upcoming chapter of Belvo for you?
Yeah, at the beginning, I was saying that we're transitioning from a product market fit to like revenue growth. I mean, we define product market fit as being able to serve so big financial institutions in Latin America, and we've achieved that, closing very big contracts. For us, I think the objectives for this year, we want to move up market. We want to serve bigger companies. So we have a good strategy to work with fintechs to add value and to integrate quickly. Now we're talking about bigger institutions, how we work with the financial leaders, how we work with banks. For us, this is important. The second thing is to provide more value within each market where we're present, which is we are offering data aggregation, which is the capability of extracting raw data from financial institutions. But we're also offering, since last year, enrichment products. So we need to nail how we build these products and how we sell. So we need to extract significant revenue from our enrichment solutions. And then finally, we're about to launch our payment initiation capabilities. And here we're building a pull and push payment platform that will allow companies to send and receive money using the banking rails that can allow savings, so they can allow them to save a lot of money and make payments a lot more efficient. So if you ask me where should you be next year, we should have so significant revenue coming from these two areas, enrichment and product. We should have fully developed payments capabilities. And obviously, we should keep focusing on the quality and the robustness of the current platform in the markets that we're serving and working with big clients.
Clarity again, and I assume that Belvo will keep hiring in the upcoming months. So any particular areas where there are a lot of opportunities there?
Yeah, so we're doubling. The plan is to double the team. So we're 125 people at the moment. So we're planning on doubling the team. We're growing extremely fast in all the areas. Yeah. So obviously, engineering is the area where we're going to grow the most, as many tech companies, but in any other area as well, right? So we start to need people who have been there in the market, who have done that, who have expertise, such as, I don't know, like a specific expertise in how you build a credit model using the data that we can extract, and things like that. We're looking for. But in a nutshell, we're growing in all different departments, and our offer is pretty competitive, right? So I mean, it's we want to have people on board who are going to have who want to have a lot of fun, who want to commit to a very challenging mission, but that that are going to be surrounded by a world-class team that is going to help make it happen. So really focused on hiring the best talent out there.
Absolutely critical. So Uri, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
And to our community, thanks for being there. As you see, we keep bringing you the best of the best to make your life a little bit easier scaling up a company. See you soon and keep scaling.